Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation is worth having drunk, or in this case, high. So thanks for joining us, Travis. I appreciate it. Enjoying your CBD beverage, not smoking while working.
That I don't smoke weed, but I do like the CBD drinks. They kind of calm me down, keep me relaxed. And I figured that it was cotton candy, so it's pink. It goes with the hats. It went with the theme. I forgot. I told you guys I was going to try and have like whiskey or wine. But I guess it'll be the extracts of weed being in Oregon, and my wife and I forgot that we were on a 30-day no drinking binge for a little while. So I just have the CBD no THC drink at my ready.
And for we were chatting before we got on, the CBD part of things, actually, there's no psychoactive properties to CBD. So somebody's unaware, they're like, oh, he's working and he's getting high. I mean, well, we're working and drinking, but there's actually there's no psychoactive properties in the CBD part of things, which is good. It's great for, obviously I'm a proponent of, I take CBD oil myself. It's great for sleep, great for anxiety, great for mood, great for stress, and just overall relaxation. So, and pain too. And a lot of people deal with the pain. So with that as well. So anyways.
Alcohol is good for pain too, especially pains of the heart.
Drink until you don't feel feelings, right? That's
exactly
what I always say.
So for those of you that don't recognize the voice, we've got Travis Smith on the show today from Sky Heating, AC, and Electrical, and Plumbing. Out of Oregon. And I absolutely love Oregon. Been down to Portland a few times myself, and I love it there. But it's, gorgeous part of the country. But Sky Heating, for those of you who don't know, phenomenal company. Travis has been running it. He's been in HVAC for over 20 years now, and it went from predominantly focusing on new construction within his business to then transforming it to zero new construction, focusing heavily on residential, and absolutely is crushing it in business, to the point that earlier this year, I asked a question on Facebook: if you tripled your business this year, would you be able to handle the revenue? And his answer was, or would you be able to handle it? And his answer was no, because they were already growing so fast, and he didn't have the space at that time. Even after expanding and adding a brand new training room to his business, he would not be able to handle it. So I'm curious if that's changed at all so far this year.
No, we could not triple in size. We're up 58%.
Nice.
Through June, I think it was, over last year. And last year was a pretty good year. We've had to lease parking spaces from the building next door, just so we have enough parking spaces to keep people in. On training days, we have to park a block away down the street. And in Oregon, it rains all the fucking time. So it's just a light mist as everybody's walking up and down the street. And I'm hoping they don't get sprayed coming to training, because we have so many people coming in. We've added on 1,000 square feet of offices and 800 square feet of training room. And added a second building with space, and added a couple storage units, and we still don't have enough room. We've hired a part-time recruiter to recruit enough people, and I think at last count we've added 23 people this year to our team.
Wow.
Which has been pretty phenomenal. And finding the vehicles for them to drive, to get them wrapped, to get the tools, because we pay for all the tools, to get them trained up to our processes, it's been a lot. While adding plumbing last October and electrical this June. So within 8 months of each other, we added 2 divisions. One we planned on adding, the second one we didn't plan on adding. And I talked to my business coach, and he's like, you should just do it. And we made the transition. And I was actually talking to somebody else that was a competitor. They ended up leaving us as a salesperson to go sell for somebody else. And he calls me up and he's like, company I work for has been doing electrical 5 years. We've got 5 electricians. I'm like, cool story, bro. We've been doing it for 2 months and we've got 4. He had nothing. He was just silent after that.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, and I do want to dive into all of that, and especially how you added the different services and offerings, why you decided to go that route and everything. But I also want to make sure we don't miss, where you came from to get to this point. Because obviously that's a journey all in and of itself. So walk us through a little bit, what you learned along the way, how you started in the industry, why you went to new construction as your predominant form of business in the beginning, and the transition to where you're at now.
Yeah. So I'll start from the beginning before I was born, which was 1979, October 1st, when my father started Sky Heating and Air Conditioning. I almost said Sky Heating, AC, Plumbing, Electrical, but that was not the name back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he was laid off working for a company in town. He was a new construction installer and got laid off, had no job, and needed to do something. So he started Sky Heating. At the time, he figured he was going to heat homes from the sky. A couple years later, there were, all the solar incentives went away. The solar panels were taken off of the White House, and he just went and did new construction, which is what he knew how to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So my first day at work, according to my baby book anyway, was 6 months and 5 days old. So while I say I've been doing this 20 plus years, that's 20 years of actually being at the office and working instead of, getting pushed around in a stroller as a baby on the job sites. So it's been in my blood, been in my veins. And from there, my father grew the company in new construction, took on some partners, and I came on June of 2001. So I recently hit my 20th year at the company.
Mm-hmm.
I started out installing ductwork, doing post and beams. I had the strongest right arm for making stuff on the bar fold, not for those other reasons, but just out there bending on the bar fold, bending on the brake, sticking sheet metal through the machines because we made all of our own ductwork at the time and had a sheet metal shop.
Wow.
So very into new construction. We were 80% of our business, at least, if not more, probably almost 85 to 90% was new construction. Of that, 75% of it was one builder. So between 2008 and 2009, we had our largest week ever where we had 33 new home starts. So within 2 years, we had 38 new home starts in a year from 33 in a week, and it just fell off a cliff. That's when I got moved from the field into the office. And my father said, wow, you should go to all these classes. There's this company called BDR. They do coaching. They're based out of Seattle. You need to go to these classes if you want to come in and run the service department, which at that time really shouldn't have been called a service department because we had one warranty tech that fixed new construction's fuck ups, and that was about it. So went to these events, went to these classes, and came back and was like, look at all these great ideas. I'm so glad you sent me. And he's like, cool. We don't do that here, though. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. And I'm like, why did I go to the class if we're not going to do any of this? So I remember just forcing it down everybody's throat. Like at one point I had a company credit card with $2,000 limit on it. And I called up our bookkeeper at the time and said, hey, I need to buy some software. I know my dad's not going to go for this. It's $1,995 and I want to run our company off software in 2009. And she's like, okay, paid off my credit card. And I call up Desco ESC at the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready to buy your software. I've got $1,995 to pay for on this $2,000 credit card so that nobody sees it coming through the company. And I start transitioning the service department onto the software. Next thing you know, we go from that one warranty tech to a true service tech to 2 service techs. And we start turning over leads from service, which at the time was a foreign concept to me. Like today, that's our business model. It's a lead turn business model from service. But at the time I was like, some of these people should just replace it. Like I'll go out and sell those. So I started selling, and without knowing anything, outsold our sales guy. Neither one of us knew that sales or service lead was better anyway. So he's just like, I went on 50 leads. He went on 50 leads, and I'm blowing him away on average ticket, close rate, customer satisfaction. So my dad's like, well, I guess you should do sales. So I moved from service management into sales and started running the sales team, implementing standards where we went from just the most basic cheap stuff. My dad was all about selling the most basic thing you could because people that bought high-end complained too much. So we started selling high efficiency and geothermal systems and variable speed and 20 SEER equipment, which we'd never sold before, which required training of our team. And as new construction gone away, we started building retro, building service up. My father retired at the end of 2013. His business partner retired at the end of 2014. So I've been running the company 100% as the sole owner since 2015, when we actually started to implement things like brand new vehicles, TV advertising. When my dad ran the company, the joke was that if another heating company paid us enough money, we'd put their name on the back of our shirt, because he tried to get every bit of advertising for free through somebody. And if he couldn't get somebody else to pay for his advertising through the Energy Trust of Oregon or the utility company or the manufacturer, he didn't do it. So I had like a $20,000 a year advertising budget to try and grow a company. And I had to do it through creating YouTube videos and Facebook before there was Facebook advertising, and posting in groups and all those things that most people do today. But we were doing those way before. And then since then have taken the company and grown. But I figured that would at least give us 2015 and beyond. And then we'll really hit on the 2015 and forward with the rest of the questions.
Wow.
Wow.
So at what point were you going heavy on Facebook and YouTube? What year would
This
that
was
have
like
been?
2011, 2012.
Nice.
Right in
Like
its
if you look back
infancy.
at our what was that?
Right in its infancy, like there was barely even. I'm trying to think back to 10 years ago and what Facebook looked like. I mean, it was
Well,
desktop a
I
lot,
ran
right?
Facebook ads. My first Facebook ads that I ran was 2009.
Yeah.
Wow.
These
That's
weren't
when
even Facebook ads though. These were
yeah,
unpaid because I didn't have money to run a Facebook ad. So like my
totally.
YouTube channel, what I do is I'd take videos on my iPad at the time and
Yeah.
I'd edit them in QuickTime where I'd literally just take a clip and a clip and a clip and I'd have 3 clips that I shot and then I'd record my audio and I'd overlay my audio over the clips. And if my audio was too long, I'd just add clip 1 again. And I upload these to YouTube and then I'd go into Facebook groups and be like, hey, check out this heat pump installation from Sky Heating and AC with this homeowner testimonial. I just uploaded testimonials and put them on Facebook. So it was like more like Facebook spamming than advertising, but nobody else was doing it at the time. And got a lot of clients from doing stuff like that at the time. So it was just grinding in the first of the digital age before I knew how to spend money on ads.
Well, and before
Totally.
the digital age became really relevant too,
Mhm.
that's the other part of that, right? Like it's, you're in there figuring it out before it was other people figured it out.
Yeah.
That's
So
being an early adopter and things like that. Like the organic reach is so much more phenomenal back then compared to what it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of early adopter, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see our newest TV commercial. Have you guys watched that at all? I think somebody reposted, it was like from 5 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden the last day or two, a bunch
I
of
did.
people started commenting on it. And they're like, dude, sweet TV commercial. I'm like, I haven't done a new TV commercial. Like, yeah, the new one you just posted. I'm like, new one? No, that was like 2 months ago. Which one are you talking about? They're like, the one with the QR code.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody commented on that from 2 months ago. So our new TV commercial actually says, hey, Travis here with Sky Heating, AC, Plumbing, Electrical. We want to be the easiest company to work for. So easy. In fact, you can book it. I can't get my hand in the screen here. Which direction I need to go? This is
it's
all backwards.
opposites. It's opposites, yeah.
So I'm like holding my hand up and there's a QR code that comes up on the screen. And we put it up on a 50-inch TV, sat back at couch length, held up our phones to it, and made sure that we could actually scan the QR code. And so now people can sit on their couch and if they have a 50-inch TV or larger, scan the QR code and book from their phone, and they can actually book an appointment through their TV for a plumber, electrician, or heating and air conditioning tech. So I think that was pretty innovative because a lot of people were like, I've never seen that before, and it has been phenomenal. So you're welcome. That's
Nice.
one big tidbit. If you're on TV, just put a QR code on the commercial.
Yeah, I actually, funny that you mentioned QR codes. I literally read an article today, maybe it was yesterday, about QR codes making a comeback, and they were almost written off pre 2017 because you need to download an app. Well, what did iPhone do? iPhone went and built into their camera the ability for their camera to just read the QR code. And so new phones today, I upgraded my phone. I mean, I had a Samsung S7 before I upgraded to the Pixel 5. I had to download the app. My QR codes suck. And now I have the new phone. I'm like, I just hovered over top and boom, it pulls up. So like the pandemic had this resurgence of QR codes specifically for the restaurant. But then it also talked about utilizing them on TV. Because now people everything's PVR, so they can pause, they rewind.
Yep.
So, QR code, they're going to pause it. They walk up, boom, they scan that code. So it's this old technology that's making a resurgence and a comeback because of certain things. So love that you're doing that. That's a cool thing.
Well, let's get into then the part that you mentioned at the beginning where you started to adapt these other services and you brought in plumbing and you brought in electrical. Was that always going to be part of the business plan, or is that something that just came about naturally after the fact? I know you mentioned electrical, just kind of stumbled upon it, but
it came about through some major failures. And if anybody's ever heard me speak before, we talk about when we expanded back in 2015, and I bought a location in The Dalles, Oregon. It's a small town of about 16,000 people, only serves about 80,000 total. And there's a company that was for sale. They were desperately trying to get sold, so much so that I literally called them up off of a flyer. They sent me a 3-page trifold that they folded, hand-mailed, hand-wrote, and sent it to all the heating dealers in Oregon saying, somebody buy us. We need to sell this company. We're in town with 3 heating companies. And I remember I called them up and I was like, hey, I got your flyer. What do you have? And they said, I'll send you our financials. No NDA, no nothing. 5 minutes later, I have taxes and financials in my inbox. And I'm like, huh, cool, let's take a look. So I made them an offer that was stupid low, and they accepted it because they just needed to sell. And I was like, well, I'll try this out. If I can operate one location, how hard can two be? Harder.
Turns out a little
well, we
harder.
at least did pretty well with that. They were almost 100% commercial, and within a year, we converted them to 100% residential and made enough to buy the company and pay it off completely by January of next year. We bought them March 3rd of 2015 and paid them off January 1st of 2016. And structured the deal creatively for taxes for them. So they had a lump sum up front and then a lump sum in 2016 over 2 tax years. It allowed me enough time to build the company up to be able to then pay for the company from the company's profits. And it's been running successfully ever since. So in 2016, I was like, man, I should do that again, but I'm going to start from scratch this time. Now I'm going to go 3 hours away where I can't drive there in a day. I'm going to move my whole family over the mountain. What a great idea. Let's just move the whole family and buy a new house and completely start up. That was an utter failure. As I've said before, you know how the government prints $5 bills, 10, 20, 50, 100. They actually used to print $500 bills and $1,000 bills. One thing I can tell you, if you want to lose money fast, you just light it on fire. I found a way to get about $100,000 bill and just light it on fire. And it was a great learning experience for the team. I was a big hit for all the money that we put into it to move the family over there, the time away from it. And very quickly, I was humbled going, holy shit, we don't have the processes. Now, we had great people that could run the Portland location, but they weren't the same growth-minded on the marketing side that I was or the sales side. So they did an amazing job taking over everything for me and learning how to operate without me, which was really a great learning piece from it. And probably worth the $100,000 price tag, because now they're so independent that I can go on shows like this for an hour and not get a single interruption. Everything's handled. I don't even get a text message or a call. That I can take a couple hours out of the day to go do my flying lessons and work on my pilot certificate. So it's been a great win in that aspect. But we sold about $1.6 million our first 12 months down there, just had a phenomenal start, and went through like 40 people to do it. And we realized we could not train and find people, and we did not have the processes. We did not have the strategies. Our marketing that worked in Portland didn't work nearly as well over here. And about 20 months after starting, went back to Portland, my tail between my legs, and the Central Oregon companies went, yep, we knew he couldn't make it here. And I was trying to grow too fast and in the wrong way. So enter 2018 or so, I ended up meeting Ken Goodrich from Gettle. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, why'd you go over there? I was like, well, if I had one company that's growing at 20%, why not grow 2 companies at 20%? Why not grow 3 companies at 20%? And he's like, because you can't. You don't have enough time. Or they have to be able to do it on their own. And I was like, yeah, I kind of see that now. I said, someday I want to get into plumbing. I want to get into electrical. And he goes, let me give you some caution on that. I understand wanting to branch into something else. But if you're here and there's this much potential left, why would you add on a brand new service and start over when instead you could just eat up that potential? And I thought about that for a while and was like, I don't think he's right. I don't know about that. And I talked to him again, and he said, here'd be my metric. When you're one of the top 5 HVAC companies in your market, and you have plenty of free time and you're sitting around going, man, what should I do? Is my team's handling everything? Then and only then should you look at adding plumbing. So we had a phenomenal year last year. The summer was over. I was getting a little bored and was like, let's add plumbing. We went to go visit a great friend of ours, Ben Davis, out at Express Plumbing in Idaho, and he was like, dude, you should do this. Plumbing's great. We're going to be getting into HVAC. We're 6-7 hours apart. Let's share information back and forth. We're both using ServiceTitan. We're both using some of the same things. We both have the same mindset and mentality. So we got into plumbing. They got into heating and air conditioning. And we didn't expect it to come so quick. I mean, we literally thought we have 6 months to plan for this. We'll start getting our logos ready. We'll send them off to the designer. We bought a vehicle, had it out front. We're like, okay, let's try some wraps. We'll prototype some wraps on it, getting ready to get it wrapped. And we put up the hiring ad going, 6 months from now, we'll be lucky if we find a plumber. We know it's tough. 2 days later, plumber shows up at our door, literally knocking on the door. And I walk in, and my ops manager is like, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, who's this weird guy sitting in our desk? He's like, that's what I need to talk to you about. I'm like, oh, great. What is this? I was like, an unhappy customer. Like, what is this? And he's like, I just interviewed this guy. He's a plumber. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, we don't want to start with the first plumber that walks in our door. And he goes, we do want to this time. I go, okay, why? He goes, well, he knows some of the Nexstar systems. He's a full journeyman plumber. He's been doing this for like 15 years, and he used ServiceTitan. and he's ready to start immediately because the company he worked for just shut down their plumbing division. So he also helped start up their plumbing division there. And I'm like, you're telling me that there's a guy that has started a plumbing division before, knows what's going to be involved, works on Service Titan, and has some of the basic Nextdoor training, and he's sitting in a room 2 days after the ad, and he's like, yeah, that's why we're hiring the first person that comes to the door. Yeah, let's cancel our meeting. I'm going to hire this guy. So we're talking, and we're like, well, when can you start? And he's like, well, I came in at 7:30, so I could have started an hour ago. And I'm like, how about tomorrow at 7:30? And we hired him. He started the next day, and he's been with us ever since and has been a phenomenal asset to the team. Since then, we've added 3 more plumbers, plumbing dispatchers. So we're now up to 4 people in that department, which isn't a ton, but they're absolutely killing it. We were expecting to do about 1 to 1.2 million in plumbing our first year, and I'd be surprised if we fell short of anything less than 1.8 to $2 million our first full year in the plumbing services, which most companies barely ever make it over that $1 million hump. So to do that with a new trade that quickly, with labor shortages, equipment shortages, tankless water heater shortages, has been phenomenal. So we came into summer, we were talking to our next star coach, and I said, he goes, what's your biggest issue you're facing? I said, well, we've got a lot of equipment. Didn't realize how bad that was going to be. So we can get to that later. And I said, our next biggest issue is we have 4 different electricians we subcontract to, and we're lucky if we can get them to show up. And he goes, is electrical going to slow down your capacity? And I said, absolutely. We have 4 electricians and we still cannot keep up with the people we're subbing out to. And he goes, I would never say this in a million years to anybody else, but plumbing's gone off without a hitch. You seem to be talking to me a lot, so you seem to have some free time again. Have you thought about starting an electrical division? I was like, I don't know if we should this early. And he goes, that's why I'm saying I wouldn't say this normally, but if it's going to slow down your HVAC, you need to figure out a solution. If it's starting your own division, figure out the fucking solution to start your own goddamn division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Come out to the team and I'm like, hey, I know we started plumbing. I know we've had a lot of hiccups. We've learned a lot. We're doing it again with electrical next month. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, we need to do it now because it's now March. We just had a record-breaking March, blew away our numbers. We're looking at a record-breaking April, blowing our numbers again. And by May, we're going to really need this. So beginning of April, I think it was, we start hiring. And once again, within like 2 weeks, the right person shows up at our door to lead the division with the licensing we need. And it's between us and one other company. And the other company wants him going this direction. And we want to go this direction. And he wants to go the same direction we're going. And I was like, okay. We hire a recruiter. He brings on multiple electricians. And now we started at technically June 1st was the first day of running calls. May was all training, getting parts, getting vans. We converted from 4 subcontracted electricians to 4 in-house electricians in the course of about a month and a half, and are now set for $120,000 a month, our second full month in electric, or third full month, which will be August, finishing almost $100,000 in July in electrical work, which is just absolutely amazing to just go from, once again, $0 to $1.5 million plus per year with electrical, and already booked out through August and trying to hire more electricians. But I go back to a lot of that success came from what Ken Goodrich told me, be the top 5 in your market. Yeah. And we looked around and we said, all right, we're in the top 5 heating companies. And of those, every one of the heating companies has another trade. We were the only one that was HVAC only. And now we're, I think, one of only 2 that's HVAC, plumbing, and electrical that does all 3 trades, but has helped skyrocket us. It's helped control the process on the electrical side. Our sales team loves it. They have more products to sell. They can now completely take care of a client if they need a new panel, plus the service for the HVAC system. We do it all in-house. It's all the same people. The teams all work together. The scheduling all works together. And there's been hiccups. Don't get me wrong. It has been an absolute madhouse trying to fix things, and we're fixing them daily. But it's been an amazing symphony of getting everybody to work together, get on the same page to allow for that growth to continue to skyrocket.
So question for you then, because you talked, top 5, and a lot of people, we've had other guests on the show. They're like, they tried plumbing, they tried electrical, and it didn't work out for them, and they went back and they removed that from the division. Obviously, I understand that the idea of the top 5, and you have your time from that to be able to devote to those divisions. But when you go like from 0 to 6 figures in 2 months, what did you do to get that? Were you database reactivation? Was it all new business? What sorts of things did you implement in order to be able to radically grow the sales part of that?
Yeah. And so a lot of that goes back to, and I think if Ken were to dig into it deeper, he'd probably add to it when it comes to being the top 5. It's to be the top 5 in a major metropolitan market, you need to have the right processes and the right people. And that's the deeper meaning behind it. It's not just that you're the top 5. And there's probably some top 5 companies that are absolute shit shows, but they made it there somehow. And if you're a well-oiled machine, the team will be able to handle and react to those things daily versus throwing their hands in the air, going, I don't know what to do, and walking away from it and letting the fires keep burning. And my team is very good at quickly putting out the fires if something comes up and being very proactive to stop those fires, saying, hey, we're running into this issue, so we don't run into it again. Here's the things we need to fix, and delegating those tasks, getting it fixed, and getting it implemented very, very quickly. Second, on top of the right processes, is the right people. Today, our team is all trained on the same selling process, the same sales process, the same service titan. It's all the same, whatever division it is, whether it's plumbing, electrical, HVAC service, HVAC sales. We always provide 6 options, 2 premium, 2 mid-range, 2 economy. We use the same price books, all flat rate. So a HVAC tech can train an electrician on how to sell items. A plumber can train with an HVAC tech or an electrician, and all the different organizations can cross-train with each other. And because of that, the cross-training has been great because our service team will be out there selling panels. As our service team's out there, they put a sticker on the electric panel, a sticker on the furnace, a sticker on the water heater, and we're getting into those homes. The database reactivation certainly has been nice. We haven't even hit our database for electrical to let them know we're doing it yet because we're so booked out on electrical between generators, panel changes, car chargers, basic circuits, and of course doing the work for our HVAC team. We can't even get to that yet. So we've actually had to pull back on the electrical because of how well it's done. And on the plumbing side, it's kind of the same thing. With plumbing, there wasn't nearly as much tie over to HVAC. So I think it grew a little bit slower, A, being the first one that we added. But B, we occasionally sell a water heater on an HVAC job, but it's not like every single one of them needs electrical. So when it came to electrical, we already knew that one person would be busy full-time just from the HVAC work we do, not knowing that we'd still need 2 more just to take on the additional work from adding electrical to our name. So people seeing us on TV and going, oh, there's an electrician. I hope I don't come back on the show in 2 years and go, oh, that was a disaster because electrical, just there's so many needs for electricians right now. And that was the only true reason for success. I'm hoping that there's some actual good marketing behind it. Things like being able to book through the TV, some great process, some great selling strategies that's allowing that to continue forward.
Well, and I think that, you do so much marketing. And I mean, obviously we have a marketing agency, On Purpose Media, primarily helps HVAC companies and also home service companies. But when you talk marketing, like you do it all. And I think you and I even had the conversation months and months and months ago. You're like, can you do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, right? And like, you have so much on the go. And I mean, you don't necessarily need to, I kind of want to get into the marketing a little bit in like, what do you have on the go? But it's a lot. When you talk about the processes and everything that goes involved with that, in order to be able to radically add in the electrical, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere for you because of the process that you implemented in the marketing that you have. So you look back to growing too fast and growing the wrong way. What sort of SOPs did you put in your business or standard operating procedures to be able to allow you to A, step back from the business as an owner, and then B, add those lines on?
So a couple of things were defining our service area. It used to be that my goal was like the bigger the service area, the bigger the pond to fish from. And it comes back to that, well, if you're not capturing all the fish in the pond that you're in, why the hell are you fishing in another pond when you should just keep fishing this one until it's depleted or close to depleted? Or at least to the point where it's like the number of new fish that are being spawned are being caught. And so we actually got rid of a ton of our service areas, which decreased our drive time by putting our services closer. We got rid of a ton of offerings like new construction. We just told them, fuck off. We're not doing new construction anymore. And they'd beg us, come back and do it. Nope. There are 2 people I don't ever want to work for again. And that's a builder and a realtor. Sorry, I've got some realtor friends out there, but they are fucking nightmares because they want everything and they're your best friend and they're going to give you all this work and it's all a bunch of bullshit because they're liars.
Yep.
So I only want to do work for end users. It's working the next to our business model. I want to have a tight knit area because now my marketing, if I send a radius mailer, It's to these separate areas where my trucks are already at, which is by my shop, which is by my billboard, which then has some over-the-air TV with a little bit of radio sprinkled in there with a nice jingle that's very catchy. So they see the sign and they start singing, and then the truck goes by and they start singing, and then they see the TV commercial like, oh yeah, camera, book my appointment. So as we define that marketing area, that helped as one SOP. Getting rid of certain customers, like I said, getting rid of any property managers, any commercial, any new construction, anything that's not an end user where it's like me and the person purchasing. If there's somebody in between it, we just get rid of them. What do you mean you won't work with me? You used to. Yep, we understand that. We don't anymore. They take too much of our time.
That's tough for a business to do as well. Like that's super tough. Like, hey, no thanks.
Yeah, to get rid of, and at the time when we got rid of new construction, we were doing about $1.2 million a year in it. And we just said zero. There was literally a day, April 28th. There's also, I think, a Sublime song about that day. But it was April 28th of, I think it was 2019. I literally called up my new construction guy, and I'm like, do you want to go into retrofit sales? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, then we don't have any work for you because we're canceling new construction. He's like, yep, I completely understand. They're all assholes to deal with. So if you'd like to transition to another spot, that's great. If not, we completely understand, but we're done with new construction. Took the new construction team and we're like, all right, we're going to teach you retrofit, teach you service, teach you maintenance. What do you want to learn? And most of them we converted. A few of them were just not good installers. We got rid of them, and we just took $1.2 million in work and went goodbye. And more than outgrew that in replacement work at a higher profit margin with less headaches. And it was like, okay, now all of a sudden, instead of dealing with builder issues every day about scheduling and junk and quotes and is this right, I could sit back and there was all this free time. But we did the same amount of work. And with less people, with less overhead. Where else can we get rid of people? This is great. It's commercial. No, we're only doing a couple $100,000 in commercial. Let's just get rid of that shit. That's a bunch of a hassle. Getting these permits and going down to the city and who's going to sell it and knowing the codes and fresh air ventilation and wasted time. Goodbye. Property managers, realtors, get rid of them. And we got to the point where it's like, okay, we've got the customers that we want, and you sometimes just need to get rid of that work. Being everything to everybody doesn't work. And my cousin actually brought this up to me. He goes, so you're telling me to not expand your offerings as you add plumbing and electrical? And I said, yes. And I know that sounds weird, so let me clarify. Plumbing service is closer to HVAC service and HVAC electrical than HVAC commercial and new construction are to each other. HVAC commercial's way out here on one side, new construction's way over here, and then plumbing, electrical, HVAC is all right here in line next to each other. Yep. It's the same sales process. It's the same marketing process, the same call booking process, the same estimating process, the same options in service Titan with the same customers with the same needs. And now we go out and sell them a water heater, a heating system, an electric panel upgrade, and a generator power when they lose power.
Oh,
super simple. And it's all the same pricing with the same overhead strategy versus new construction, where sure, you can sell them all these different services, but they're all different overhead structures and labor structures and pricing structures. And it's super simple this way.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And like and I've long said that too, that they assist each other, right? And they make the most sense to put it in there, because now you can get them and get them sounds bad in like the broad sense, but you now have a customer for multiple different product lines if you nail it on the first one and you get that 5-star review. You mentioned in there a defined marketing area, and you're like direct mail to your billboards and where they're at. So talk to us a little bit about what your marketing strategy is and what you do in terms of everything that you got going on there for that.
Yeah, and that's where, when we talked, it gets complex, because you've got to have layered marketing. You can't just say, all right, we're only doing pay-per-click and that's our only marketing source, and we're just going to increase and decrease that budget, because not all of those people are going to be the right person. There's only so much demand, and you need to be able to have just some of that visual, like, I know who you are. So you've got to start with branding first and foremost. People like Dan Antonelli that do vehicle wraps and do your logo.
Amazing, by the way.
Because that helps you in the rest of your marketing. Everything else gets better from there. Then we start with some just top of the funnel broad awareness, whether it be the jingle on the radio where it doesn't tell you much about the company, just that we do heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, and can clear the drains, and very, very basics. It's a 30-second jingle that just gets you going, oh, okay, happy, go lucky, good. Then that jingle ties into the TV commercial, which is broad market. Not everybody that gets hit by the TV commercial is a customer of ours. Every once in a while we get a 1-star review because somebody is in another state and sees the TV commercial and they're too fucking stupid to figure out that we don't go to their state. It says Oregon license right here at the bottom. Why don't you come to Washington? Because we only have an Oregon license. We don't want to go to Washington. 1-star review. Well, most people would get discouraged and be like, I'm just going to stop TV. You've got to get rid of that. Who cares? It's 1 out of 700, 800 plus reviews, 1 OL.
Yep,
the other 1,000 plus customers I got because of that TV and because of that broad market, but now that TV commercial has 3 times the impact. 1 impact for HVAC, 2 impact for plumbing, and 3 impact for electrical now. So those TV commercials suddenly become more valuable as we've added those services. But if we're advertising to commercial and new construction, those are completely different buying processes. It's business to business versus business to consumer. So you're looking at something completely different. Then after the TV commercials, then you've got your Google local services. Well, who's more likely to be selected? Joe Schmo, Budget Heating, or Sky Heating, who's all over TV and radio? Of these 3, I know this one. Click. Sure, we're all the same listing in local services, but I'm more likely to get a click because of that. Now, it's hard to quantify that TV has a payback. It's hard to quantify that radio has a payback. But when you go to a Google local services or a pay-per-click call and they're singing the jingle, they clicked the pay-per-click ad because of the jingle. And now all of a sudden your pay-per-click dropped from, $100 a click to $50 a click because of the TV. Now, is TV showing a huge payback from its call tracking? Absolutely not. But I know that my pay-per-click is half of what it used to be prior to that. Or when I talk to other friends, they're like, how is your pay-per-click number so low? Well, it's because we have good branding and we have mass market media. Then you have the targeted mailers, billboards in certain areas that you really like that, you've got your heat maps through Service Titan or House Call Pro. You can then put up billboards to really make sure you're harvesting from the right zip codes. And then there's other direct mail places that, you can target those specific areas where you're already doing the best. And the average zip code can pull anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million a year. And I think Travis Ringy down at ProSkill said he had one zip code where he did $4 million a year in business from one zip code.
Wow.
So if you're out there and you've got 10 zip codes, well, if you're not doing at least $500,000 a piece, you could probably be better targeting in those zip codes. You could probably be sending mail out. And then at the bottom layer is your existing customers, which we have screwed up on big time for years. I can tell you one thing there, we have not done as good of a job as we should, where if you send 4 mailers a year, what is it, 50 cents a mailer, $1 a mailer? Let's say it's really nice, it's $1 a mailer. That means that you spent $4 per year to try and keep a current customer, $4. And yet most people are gladly paying $100 for a pay-per-click phone call that they at best have a 60% booking rate on because they're not tracking it. And now all of a sudden, a 60% booking rate on a $100 pay-per-click, and you spend $180 to get a lead. When you could have just advertised to your existing customers and spent $4 through direct mail per year. Even if it takes you 10 years to get them to do one thing, it spent $40 to retain them. And as you add plumbing, electrical, on average, somebody should have their heating system maintained once a year. Plumbing breaks down, I think it was once every 3 years, and electrical's every 5. So if I can just hit the customer every single year, I should have in 10 years, 10 maintenances, 2 electric visits, and 3 plumbing visits for each client that I bring in. The pay-per-click adds clients to my database. The rest of the marketing is meant to drop the pay-per-click price to add those clients, and then the marketing at the very bottom is meant to keep them in my database because we know that we're going to have a 80% retainage rate and 20% are going to move on. They're not going to like the price. They're going to move away. Something's going to happen, etc. And we need to start covering that 20% loss and add the rest for growth.
There's a lot of golden nuggets there. I know our assistant Alec is on here, and I'm sure that he wrote down the time that this started. But whenever we ask the question about marketing, like go back and rewind and rewatch this. I'm definitely serious on this, 1000% serious. Like you talk about and I think about this with my mechanic, and now that I've moved, I'm probably not sadly going back to that same mechanic, but they would send out, it's time for your scheduled maintenance. It's time for your scheduled maintenance. I've never had my maintenance done there other than, hey, do my oil changes align with you actually doing work on my car? But then they continue to send me those mailers, and it keeps that top of mind awareness, TOMA for short. And a lot of people forget what TOMA actually means in advertising, and they get so hung up on what's my cost per click, what's my ROI, what's this, what's that, what's this, what's that, where you just basically took that and flipped it right out upside down and on its head. Yeah, okay, my TV, I know that I'm spending X amount of dollars. It's not giving me the ROI that it should, right? Billboards not giving me the ROI that it should, right? Sorry, I'm getting reversed, should. And for those that are listening later, I use air quotes on the word should, but it's advertising assists versus the swim lane. And I've talked about this, I've beat this topic to death over, 7+ years in advertising, 8+ years in advertising, is that if you look to your advertising to take, and this is the swim lane. So if I'm going to spend, 10 grand in 10 different lanes of advertising, and I'm going to, $100,000 of advertising, each one should net me $1 million in sales. I should do 10 million, right? You're like, okay, cool. That's well and fine. But then at the end of the year, you do 6 million, let's say, or 7 million. You're like, well, what the fuck? The numbers told me I was going to do 10 million based off of what I should, air quotes again, get back. Well, no, they assist each other, right? People are going to see the TV. They're going to see that jingle. They're going to see the billboard. They're going to see everything. And then when they actually have the problem, like we talk a lot about problem solution in advertising, saying, okay, here's my problem. Now I'm going to Google, look for the solution. Boom, you're right there. Oh, that name sounds familiar. Boom, click on it. They call you, you book, right? And that is a key, absolutely key thing that so many businesses underestimate.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, you're going to say something, or I have another topic that I want to roll into that kind of falls off of advertising.
Yeah, there was a couple of good comments that came up on Facebook on some of our live sessions here. We had one quote. This goes back to when you were talking about trying to create a product that was made for everyone. And Moston here, he's actually my nephew. Yeah, he's assisting in a business there. Product and service made for everyone is made for no one, right? He who chases two rabbits catches none. And that comes back to your targeting, right? And making sure that's on point. You've nailed down who it is that your ICA is, and you're going to double down on getting in front of as many of them as possible. If you haven't captured 85% of that one zip code, you haven't done your job yet. Get in there more, which comes to John's quote and question. The top zip code, is it usually the same zip code as the shop? So I thought this was a great question from John.
I love that one, John. Thank you for asking that, because our top zip code, we moved to this new location in 2016. And prior to that, our top zip code was the zip code of our shop. But that was when we didn't have very good marketing, didn't have the same metrics in place, weren't using Service Titan. Today, our shop is one of our top zip codes, definitely in our top 5, but we have a few other areas where we have targeted very well. It comes to home ownership rate, value of home, the type of person that's looking for our service, where we know there's less rentals, because if there's rentals in the area, they're probably not looking for a premium service provider like us. We're not the cheapest to install air conditioning. Come with new thermostats, brand new electrical, brand new coils, brand new line sets. We don't reuse any of that stuff, so we're not the cheapest by any means. So I can't be going after a homeowner that's looking for the cheapest, and I do have to eventually find those metrics. And it could be that you try out a few markets and you try out a few zip codes, and you go, all right, some of these are returning really good $14,000 average sales, and another zip's turning $8,000 average sales. And I've got enough data that I've got 50 sales in each zip code, and went, this zip code's way better. Start funneling the marketing dollars to that zip code and planting the marketing dollars there, because you're going to get a better return on it. And you just keep adding and adding and adding. But yeah, start with your primary zip code. If you're not doing the best there, at least start there. There are some tools out there that can help you find how you're doing in each zip code, and you can at least look at some really basic data. All right, if my zip code has 50,000 people, I know there's way less than that in the zip code, and this zip code has 10,000 people, okay, is this zip code giving me 5 times the return or a similar return? And really, it's not about the number of people, it's about the number of owner-occupied homes, because that's the real number. And in most cases, there's, I think, 2.4 people per home, and then depending on the market, anywhere between 40 to 60% of the homes are rentals. Well, go after that market where 40% are rentals, not 60% are rentals. If you can, try and obviously remove apartments if you're doing any direct mail, remove businesses. There's a lot of different tools that can help you do those things and find the markets that are best, and then start expanding those zip codes out until you've started to run out of stuff.
Love it. Well, I'll also say, so Thaddeus and I, we actually both worked in a magazine company before we started the agency. and it was heavy into branding. That's what it was all about. So this conversation that you just spit a tremendous amount of knowledge on was the exact thing that we had to educate every business owner we ever sat in front of. If we would have just sat in front of more business owners like you, gosh, I can't even imagine how many ads we would have sold into those magazines, because it was targeted to affluent homeowners, where between 75 and 90% were homeowners in those communities where we were distributing the magazines, which for an HVAC business, like, that is your prime target market. People who actually make the decision on the system that's in their house. So you were tugging right on our heartstrings in terms of creating a premium brand and a premium product and a premium service offered to a premium customer. I loved it.
1000%.
So sorry, you wanted to head into a different topic, so go ahead, bud.
Well, actually, let's interject a random question, and then I'll go to the next topic, and that'll probably take us to the top of the hour, which will probably take us, sadly, to the end of this show, even though we could probably split this out into 2 parts. And anyways, so random question. I'm going to, Travis, do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go with door C. That'd be question 3, I think. That sounds fun.
Question 3. All right. What do you think you do better than 90% of people?
Numbers.
Numbers.
I'm a numbers guy. You heard me like running off of metrics and math and numbers. In fact, the guy sitting outside of my door is my sales team leader, and the top of his resume said metric-minded manager. I'm like, oh, this guy's a nerd like me. And I was like, I probably can't say that. It might offend him, but I have no problem calling myself a nerd. It's funny because I got a C- in my accounting classes, and my current CFO is always like, how did you get a C-? You are so good with numbers. And I was like, yeah, but you taught them to me. I know financial statements. I can read financial statements. Knowing percentages, numbers, all those metrics off the top of my head is something that I do very well at. So I would say that most people would say I'm a numbers guy, and I'm better than 90+% at that easily.
That is awesome. Also pulling at my heartstrings on that, because I think I also got a C- in my accounting class, but yet the numbers are just, it's when you have to learn general accounting principles, blah, go to sleep, right? But but hey, you know what? Profit loss, I'm in. So
C's get degrees. So.
C's get degrees, man. I
barely. A students work for C students.
Exactly.
Which is funny, right. My CFO was the valedictorian. And then there's the guy over here that got C- and D's and barely graduated.
I was funny that you say that A students work for C students. I've said that A students go into, like, they almost go into research and they go further along. The B students kind of get stuck in the middle somewhere, and they end up working for, the C guys, because the C students, you know what? We learn how to drink beer in school and take risks, really. And you hire the best people for the job. We're like, I don't know legal shit, so guess what? I'm gonna hire a fucking lawyer, right? We don't know this. Well, okay, we're gonna find somebody that knows it, and we have the humbleness to say, okay, do it. But I'm gonna actually shift my topic a little bit because you mentioned numbers, and one of the things that actually I wanted to get into, and I had this written down. So you mentioned this in previous, some of the key numbers that you look at, your key performance indicators, KPIs for short. When you look at taking your business and you look at growing it, what are some of the numbers that, I love the clipboard, what are some of the numbers that you look at on a day-by-day, a weekly, a monthly, and a yearly basis?
Well, and do you mind if I take this one step a little bit farther?
Yeah.
Sweet. So Greg Fox was on last week with Fox Heating and Air down in Sacramento. And one of the things that he talked about was around the subject of KPIs as well, and how he separates the KPIs for business and the KPIs for his team, because what he wants them focused on is different than what he's focused on. So I was curious if you could share that as well.
Yeah, so like on this, we have our daily huddle sheet. So every day at 9:30, the call center manager, electrical manager, service manager, sales manager, which is currently me, plumbing manager, which is currently our ops manager, our install manager, and CFO meet, and we go over our 3-day call board variances, where we need calls, where we don't, what our inbound booking percentages are, if our outbounding is red, yellow, or green, meaning that our marketing efforts are working and we're actually pulling money out of marketing, or our marketing's at full bore and we need to start calling out. Electrical, how many opportunity calls are we running? What's our average sale? What's our conversion rate? And our total revenue. Service, total revenue, number of calls, how many of those are aged, meaning 10 years or older to turn into flip opportunities, so we know what age or what percentage of them are aged and getting repairs versus possible replacement. If we know that this many are possible replacement, we can prep the sales team to have same-day appointments for those possible replacements and get out there quickly. And in an ideal business model, we've only done this once so far, we go to a call at 8 in the morning. At 8:30 or 9, it gets turned into a sales lead. At 10 o'clock, it becomes a sales lead, and by 1 o'clock, we're installing the system, and we're finished by 5 or 6 that night. If we can go out to a house and install an air conditioner or furnace the same day as the service call, we have made it. That is true top-of-the-line service, and we've done that one time. I just said, all right, let's do it one time, and then we'll try to do it a second time, and then a fifth time, and then a 25th time, and then it'll just be standard. How many monthly maintenances are we running? We, as far as individual metrics, we look at how many monthly maintenances has somebody sold versus how many are we running as a company, so we can see where our backlog's at. How many maintenance techs do we need? How many tech generated leads? What we're shooting for per day. On sales, we're of course looking at how many leads we are running that are brand new. We look at how many leads were booked that were brand new, so we can see if we're pacing ahead or behind. If we booked 15 new leads and only ran 12 leads, we're going, oh shit, we're starting to book out on the sales side. Do we need to open up some more capacity? Do we need to work Saturdays? Of course, closing rate, average sale, and a big one for us is how many man days. Let's say you sold $50,000. Well, is that $50,000 it takes you 15 man days to put in or 5 man days to put in? That's very important, because if you've got the right gross profit dollars and the gross profit percentages, the number of man days is going to tie into that in your labor force to see how many man days backlogged you are to check your labor. Plumbing, just revenue, number of calls, conversion rate, average sales, sold hours, install, total revenue, number of new job starts, number of continued jobs, what went over because everything's supposed to be done same day, and how many callbacks do we have? Where are we having issues? What were those callbacks? And then we add up our electrical service, plumbing, and install and total it up for the day. For all those, for individual salespeople, I want to know what their revenue per lead is, which is essentially their average sale times their close rate. And I say, if I give you one lead, you should on average bring back, our $6,000, let's say, if it's a marketed lead, or $11,000 if it's a service lead. And then I can prioritize things, because I know that a maintenance call is worth $1,087. I know that a service call is worth $2,147. A marketed lead is worth about $6,000, and a tech turnover is worth about $11,000. So each one of those is metrified, and I know that as need be, if I want to add $1,000 to the bottom, or not the bottom line, to add $1,000 to the revenue, okay, I need to run one maintenance lead. On average. Now, really, I'm going to have to run probably 20 of those to add 20,000, but of those, maybe 1 or 2 will turn into sales, which will turn into $20,000 in sales, plus the 500 or so in maintenance. And now, all of a sudden, you've generated $20,000 in revenue by running those 20 calls. And you just work the metrics backwards to build out your business model and your call model, which builds out your model of how many people you need. Because to run these calls, these people run 2.4 calls per day on average if it's service, 3 calls per day if it's maintenance, and then some time for training, morning meetings, picking up parts, doing paperwork, etc. So we're not focused on, some places are like, I want somebody to run 8 to 10 service calls a day, or hey, have you ever ran 8 service calls in a day? I don't give a shit, because you could have ran 8 service calls and picked up a diagnostic fee on all 8 of them, whereas my guys ran 4 in a day, but they turned over one of them that turned into a 10. Actually, right now it's a $13,000 sale on average. So if they run 4 demand calls, on average, they will turn one of those into a $13,000 sale at an 80% close rate. Those are the metrics that I care about, because now I can run less calls with better numbers, with higher gross profit, and once again, getting back to my marketing advertising, target those demand replacement customers, knowing that they're worth $21.47 a piece, and knowing they're worth that, here's how much I'll spend to acquire each one. And if I don't turn it into a sale, I better turn it into maintenance, so they're on the back end of my funnel, and eventually they'll be buying that system as they build up and accrue.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure right in the middle of that, I heard like a thump on the bottom of Thad's desk from his erection. So that was pretty phenomenal.
Is that
Normally
what you're
I would
laughing
listen to a
about?
podcast.
Is that what you're laughing about? You're like,
Yes.
I'm lost in number heaven, because I'm like, I spew numbers to Evan. He's just like,
Like, yeah, but how do people feel about those numbers? That's my thing.
Right.
Um,
Give me the data. Give me the data.
but that was normally I listen to a podcast on like 1.5. If it's really slow, then like 2 times speed, just so I can get through, and then I'll slow it down during important parts. Pretty sure most people are going to need to listen to that on like 0.75 or 0.5
Yes.
times speed, just so they can take some notes on that as far as all the different things that you measure. Because as a business owner, like those are the things that you need to pay attention to so that you can make sure that you can course correct. And this is one of the things as a pilot that you constantly have to do. I mean, you're off course 99% of the time, and we can get into the pilot stuff a little bit later too, because I know Thad's going to want to ask
I'd love to
questions
talk
on
more
this.
because it sounds like you know a lot more than I probably do even. So I'm a student pilot. I think we got into that before we got on the show, but I'm learning to not crash. And if I do, I've got a parachute on this beautiful plane that I'm renting. So I've got like, redundancy on top of redundancy.
All I know about being on planes is that I was 20 years old, 19 years old. The very first time I ever went on an airplane, it was a little Cessna, and I jumped out of the motherfucker. Like,
wow, that's a good way to start flying.
I'm from a town of 5,000 people, so I mean, I lived a pretty sheltered life when it came to flying, but jumped out of it when I was 19, my first ever plane ride. So that's my experience on flying planes.
Yeah, so as a pilot, you're constantly course correcting, right? You're off course 99% of the time. Well, as a business owner, it's the exact same thing. And the more attention to detail you pay when it comes to your KPIs, the quicker you can course correct and get back on track for your goals. And if you're overshooting what you thought you would do, your projections, great, increase your goals, right? Increase your numbers. I rarely ever hit a goal because if I'm on track for it, I want to go higher, right? Wow, there was a lot in there. A couple things that Thad, did you want to ask any questions on the numbers themselves before I ask these other questions that he like hinted at through that?
No, you go for it. It's all you.
All right, sweet. One of the things that stood out was how you mentioned your org chart. And you talked about who reports to who, how you are taking care of both 3 or 4 different responsibilities at the top there. So it sounds like you need to hire some more people, or at least promote some people from within.
And I get to go flying during the day, boating on the weekend. So land, sea, and air. I've got a beautiful McLaren sitting outside that I drove into work today. So I'm not doing too bad here with the people we have. And I fortunately have this new person I did hire to take along a lot of my responsibilities, which has allowed me to work on the pilot's license, which has been a dream for about 10 years. We definitely need to hire people. We are still hiring for CSRs, service techs. The only thing we're not hiring for right now, that's easier to say, is we're not hiring for installers because I want to make sure we have plenty of equipment. We're looking for one more salesperson, although I think we just heard from one of our service techs he's going to move into that. We're getting ready to hire more maintenance techs. We had an apprentice start last week, a maintenance tech starting next week. So when I said we'd hired 23 people this year, we're probably now at like 27. I just haven't been updated on what that actual number is. But in our training room, we actually do have an org chart, and it's Travis, president at the top. Underneath is our operations manager, and our operations oversees our plumbing manager, electrical manager, service manager, and HVAC install manager. And then on the right-hand side of the chart is our CFO, so everything flows through. And on the left-hand side of the chart is used to be me as sales manager, and it's now Jason who's taking over sales team leader. And that breaks into outside sales and inside sales. Inside sales being our CSRs and our call booking teams, because it flows left to right. On the left, and I know it's backwards on the screen, on the left, it's selling, then the operations to put it in, then the finance to bill it, record it, and make sure it's profitable and make sure there's money flowing and everything else to pay for it. Because if you don't collect on it, you can't be selling it at the beginning. And if you sell it but you can't put it in, you can't be selling it at the beginning. So all 3 pieces need to work together and support each other. But everything ties up the pyramid so that if somebody's a service tech or maintenance tech, they would then report to the dispatcher, who reports to the service manager, who reports to the ops manager, who would report to myself, and it flows, and they know when, if they need to go over somebody, who the next person is or point of contact, so that it gets filtered out before it gets to me, unless it truly needs to get to me for some reason. Somebody's like, I don't want to make that decision. So I get to make a lot of amazing decisions and a lot of really shitty decisions, and not a whole lot in between, because anything in between, somebody else knows that decision, and chances are they know it better than I do. Totally. And I want to leave that one piece of advice is, you mentioned hiring people. We were talking about the C students hiring A students. So many owners, I see them say this, and like this guy that I think he defriended me on Facebook, so if he's listening, sorry, Paul, you're wrong. You just are. He posted, "You better get your install now because I'm stepping out of the field soon, and nobody's going to be better than me." And I was like, "You're a fucking idiot. Here's why. If you're stepping out of the field, you should be hiring somebody better than you to be doing your installs, so that you can be the best at doing what you're doing, and there's somebody better than you." I am shitty at installing, and I've had people laugh at me, you're a shitty installer, you're a shitty service tech, and you own a heating company. I'm like, yeah, mine's 10 times the size of yours, so who's wrong now? Sorry. You're doing $1 million a year, and you're telling me what I should be doing with my $15+ million highly profitable company because I can't install an air conditioner for shit. I'm a professional business owner at this point. I'm not a professional installer. If I was an installer, I wouldn't own the business. Mm-hmm. And my installers, every one of them is better than me. My operations manager, better than me. I said I ran the service department. My current service manager, better than me. The new guy that's taking over the sales team, better than me. And I have no problem saying that because I'm proud to have hired them and been able to train them to the point of them being better than me. And if they weren't better than me, they probably shouldn't be here because I'm a really bad employee.
Right. Well, and that goes back to the thing that I said earlier, is you hire people that are better than you at the job that you're hiring for. And getting over that ego side of things where you're like, no, I can do everything. No, you fucking can't. Like, stop trying to do everything. Hire somebody that can do that.
Yes.
Right? Which is huge. And so let's ask this question and then our famous last question. So John asked, Travis, what are some of the toughest obstacles you've experienced as you scaled your business?
That's a whole nother episode. Let's see. We can go over employee theft from people that I thought were close to me, having people arrested from my office, forcefully pushing out business partners after they went on week-long coke binges and ran off with the secretary that you thought was the secretary, but they've actually been dating. We can hit on all of those at some point.
That sounds like an after-hours conversation right now.
The time that I sent 2 installers home in the same Uber after they got fired because I was so sick of their shit, and I fired 2 people on the same day and made them force the ride together because they were on the way to each other's house. I'm like, here, you're dropping this person off there and this person off there, and by the way, here's a $50 tip because they just got fired.
Uber rideshare for the win.
Or the other guy that he got fired and he's outside. And he goes, I don't know how an Uber is going to pick up my tools. And I said, XL, motherfucker. And I pressed the XL button in front of him. I said, you got a Suburban coming to pick your shit up. Get the fuck out of here. And if people don't meet our metrics, I've been known as an asshole, but I will tell you, if you are on my team, you will be the best taken care of. If you're not on my team, I will cut your shit out. I don't have time for it. I'm very business oriented. I'm just here to get shit done. I'm not here to be your friend, make your friend. I will help you in any way that I can. I've gone to the ends of the earth, loaning people thousands of dollars to get their life on track, putting them through programs, giving out free air conditioners, free equipment to people, lifetime donations to different organizations that we support. But that's because they're giving something back. They're doing something. And if you want to just try and ride on somebody else's coattails and not be accountable, I will call you on your shit every day. And my team will too.
Absolutely love it. Evan, what do you always say? Hire slow, fire fast.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that to me is the difference between a handout and a hand up.
Yeah.
Right? Are you helping
Everybody gets a hand up.
Yeah, it's a hand up, right?
No,
I love that.
I remember one mentor said you've got 2 hands, one for somebody to be pulling you up and one to be reaching down to pull somebody up behind you. And you've got to always be thinking like that. There's always people that I'm bringing up at the company that, one of our guys, he went from making, I think his biggest year was $35,000 a year, and he'll probably make $250,000 this year after being with us for 4 or 5 years because he went into the spot that he wanted to be. He found his true calling and his purpose. He went from living in a rental with a car getting repossessed to living in like almost $1 million house now with his family, being able to provide them vacations that he'd never been on, a brand new $50,000+ Denali, just beautiful stuff and an amazing life. that he never would have had he not been given the opportunity. And there's countless people that I can tell you about with opportunities like that where we've provided that. I didn't do the work. 100% they did the work. We just said, here's the opportunity, here's what it takes. Not everybody wanted to put in the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now that personal accountability is so huge. You can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Awesome.
Well, as we start to wrap up.
So our famous last question. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
There's so many, it's kind of hard to say. And I think it really goes back to, what is your biggest failure? Mm-hmm. And I think that people don't want to talk about their failures. And I always talk about how if you would have had the same conversation with me 2 years ago, I wouldn't have brought up the Central Oregon thing because I was so afraid of how badly I failed, not realizing that, sure, maybe I lost a ton of money, but the amount of knowledge that I gained, and it was a definite major setback at the time, but it's allowed us to slingshot and propel forward. You can't move forward without failing. And failing isn't a bad thing. And you've got to just keep failing through it. I always tell my team now, look, if you're going to fuck it up, go for it. But come back and tell me what you've learned from it and how we're fixing it. Because otherwise it is just a fuck up. And ask people about their failures because you'll learn more from that than their successes. Mm-hmm. There's like Edison talked about, there was 9,999 wrong ways to make a light bulb, but only one right one. Well, if you only ask them about the one right one, you haven't learned anything about innovation. You just learned the way to do it, but not all the wrong ways. And now you're going to try the wrong ways, and you'll probably find 3 or 4 of the wrong ways before sticking with the right way that you should have started with. So start on those failures and work your way forward.
100%. So would you say that your biggest, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What would be your biggest failure?
Oh, it'd still be going to Central Oregon. I mean, if I could turn back the hands of time and not do that, but have the knowledge that I learned, I don't know where I'd be today. I'd certainly be a larger, probably more profitable, more successful company if I had the knowledge without the big failure, because it was 2 years of my life and my family's life and time and money and efforts and just blood, sweat, and tears. I literally went back into the field installing ductwork in 0-degree weather. It's getting snowed on with like 18 inches of snow, and coming from Oregon where we don't get snow or heat, it was, starting over. It was definitely a humbling experience, but got through it and come out stronger on the other side.
Well, and those experiences shape you. And we could probably have the same conversation having you not went out there, and you might not be the business that you are today because of the experiences that you gained in that, perceived failure. And I'm going to use air quotes on that again because it's, it's a setback. And you learn from that and you move forward.
And that's why I think people need to ask about failures, because if they can get the experience, but jump the valley, that is the true success right there. And that's why I wish I would have known what I know today, because I would be further ahead if I had the knowledge, but didn't have the failure. But I had to have the failure to get the knowledge, so learn from it.
Well, and that's why it's so valuable to listen to podcasts, to read books, to hire coaches, stand on the shoulders of people who have done it before. The reason why we've accelerated our business is because we've learned from other people that have been there and they've done it and they've failed, and we've learned from their failures instead of ours, right? It's compressing decades into days. Mm-hmm. And, one of the 2 quotes that we have around failure in our house for our kids: 1, there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And 2, the only true failure is in failing to learn a lesson.
100%. Love that.
And then it comes back to fear, which a lot of people have a lot of fear around failure, which it's either fuck everything and run or face everything and rise. So when it comes to failure, celebrate it, accept it, that it's a part of the learning process, and just go after it, because the faster you fail, the more you're going to succeed.
Yep.
100%. I think that's a great end to the show.
Sounds good. Travis, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Great state that you live in down there. I've toured it myself as well. I think we're going to have a part 2 with you on in the near future. But for now, thank you for taking the time. And until next time. Cheers.
Sounds like fun. Talk to you guys later.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. 1, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny little bit of information out of this that was a golden nugget for you in your business, all we ask is for you to introduce this show to one person on your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.